welcome to The Deep Dive. This is the show where we take your sources, could be articles, research notes, and really pull out the key insights, basically giving you a shortcut to being genuinely well-informed. Today, we're diving into the world of habits. It's fascinating stuff, drawing heavily from James Clear's Atomic Habits.
Right, specifically the tunnel translation too, Pipuvaniyakani, which means small habits.
Exactly. And our mission today is pretty clear. Unpack how these tiny, seemingly insignificant changes can lead to, well, remarkable results.
Yeah.
And we'll zoom in on that very first principle he lays out. Make it obvious.
And what's really compelling, I think, is the full original title, Atomic Habits, an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. Tiny changes, remarkable results. It just nails it, doesn't it?
It really does.
It flips the script. It's not about these huge life-altering moments necessarily. It's about understanding that tiny, consistent shifts, they compound, they become transformative. We'll look at Clear's own story, how he got there, and, the science behind why these atomic changes matter so much.
Okay, let's unpack that personal journey then.
Right.
Because it really does show the core idea, right? That tiny changes lead to big results. It wasn't just theory for him.
No, not at all. It came from something pretty intense.
Yeah.
Back in 1998, he had this really serious baseball accident. A bat hit him right in the face, multiple fractures, bleeding, seizures, the works.
Wow, that sounds terrifying. How did you even start to recover from that?
Well, initially, he couldn't breathe properly, couldn't move. Recovery was slow. Even after they brought him home, there was brain swelling, vision problems. And even 2 years later, trying to get back into baseball, he really struggled. He genuinely thought, I've lost it. I'm not talented anymore.
That must have been incredibly discouraging.
Yes.
So how did he get from that point to figuring out this whole Atomic Habits thing?
Precisely. That's the turning point. It was at Denison University, maybe 2 years into recovery. He started to understand, as he puts it, the surprising power of tiny habits.
Okay.
So instead of focusing on some massive comeback or lamenting his lost talent, he shifted focus. He started optimizing really small things.
Like what?
His sleep schedule,
Yeah.
his diet, his strength training routines, just focusing on getting 1% better in these small areas consistently.
Marginal gains.
Exactly, that idea of marginal gains. And slowly, gradually, it worked. He eventually became one of the top players on the team. He even got the university's highest academic award, the President's Medal.
That's incredible. So bringing this back to us, to you listening, what's the big takeaway? It's clearly not just about baseball.
Right. It highlights something fundamental. The really important lessons, the big changes, they often start looking insignificant.
Yeah.
It's those small changes done over and over for years sometimes that lead to amazing results. And for you, the key thing is it challenges that idea that you need some huge radical transformation overnight.
Right. The go big or go home mentality doesn't always work.
Not for sustainable change, no. The real power is often in that invisible work, the stuff nobody sees day to day.
Invisible work leading to visible results. I like that. But how? How do these tiny little changes actually create such big outcomes? What's the mechanism?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It boils down to compounding. Habits compound just like money earns interest.
Okay.
Clear uses a great example, the British cycling team back in 2003. Their coach, Dave Brailsford, brought in this idea of the aggregation of marginal gains.
Right. I remember reading about this. They looked for tiny improvements everywhere.
Everywhere. Like a 1% improvement in absolutely everything. The bike seats, the tire grip, the massage gel, even washing hands properly to avoid illness.
Wow. And the results?
Extraordinary, really. All those tiny gains added up. Multiple Olympic golds in 2008, 2012, loads of Tour de France wins. It just shows the massive impact of small, consistent effort.
It's exponential.
It really is. Getting just 1% better each day, by the end of the year, you're nearly 37 times better. But get 1% worse each day, and you're basically down to zero. It shows how much those small daily choices steer the ship.
That's a stark contrast. But it also brings up something else he talks about, the plateau of latent potential. That resonates, I think, that feeling where you're putting in the work.
And nothing seems to be happening.
Absolutely. It's that invisible work again. He uses the analogy of melting ice.
Huh. Yeah.
You heat it, you're adding energy, but the temperature stays stuck at 0 degrees until suddenly, bam, the last bit melts and then the temperature starts rising.
Right.
Most people give up while they're still melting the ice,
Yeah.
just before the breakthrough.
Because they don't see the progress.
Exactly. So the clarity here is Consistency isn't about seeing results every single day. It's about trusting the process, even when the results are latent, hidden.
So success comes from the daily habits, not one big transformation. Focus on the process.
And speaking of focus, he also makes this really interesting distinction between outcome-based habits and identity-based habits. How does that change things?
Oh, this is, I think, one of the most powerful ideas in the book. It's a real mindset shift.
Okay.
The core idea is your habits are basically a reflection of your identity. So instead of saying, I want to lose weight, that's an outcome.
Yeah.
You shift to, I am a healthy person, or I am an athlete. You focus on who you want to become.
So the identity comes first.
Yes. And then the habits follow as proof of that identity. He suggests 2 steps. First, decide the type of person you want to be. Second, prove it to yourself with small wins, little habits that reinforce that identity.
That feels much more internal, more motivating than just chasing a goal.
It is. It turns habits from chores into like affirmations of who you are.
Okay, that's a fantastic framework. So if we buy into this, how do we actually do it? Let's get practical. Clear gives us 4 laws, starting with law 1, make it obvious. Where do we start with that?
Well, the starting point is understanding something about our own brains. Clear calls it the problem with your brain.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Basically, our brains are prediction machines. They're wired to notice and react to big, obvious, immediate threats or rewards. It's an evolutionary thing.
Kept us safe on the savannah.
Exactly. But the downside is we often become blind to the subtle cues in our environment, the little things that could trigger a good habit or set off a bad one.
We just don't notice them.
Right. So the insight is we need to consciously design our environment to make the cues for the habits we want impossible to miss, make them obvious.
Can you give an example of this brain blindness playing out?
Sure. He tells a story about a doctor, Carrie Kilbon, and a patient named Susan. The doctor was so focused on her big, obvious symptoms that he completely missed the really subtle but critical cue, a lack of oxygen in her blood vessels. That was the key to diagnosing a rare condition. He missed the small cue because he was looking for the big problem.
Focused on the wrong thing.
Yeah. Another really powerful example, quite different, is from the Vietnam War, 1971. About 15% of U.S. soldiers there got addicted to heroin.
Wow, that high.
Yeah. And doctors back home predicted disaster, thinking most would stay addicted. But what happened?
What?
Only about 5% relapsed within a year, 12% within 3 years. A massive difference.
Why such a drop?
The environment changed, the cues associated with using heroin in Vietnam, the stress, the availability, the social context, they were gone back home. It showed addiction wasn't just about willpower or personal failing. The environment was a huge trigger.
So the cues disappeared, and for many, the habit did too.
Okay, that's powerful.
Yeah.
So how do we use this? How do we actively make good habits obvious for ourselves?
Right. This is where the tools come in. And these are probably familiar if you know the book, but understanding why they work is key. First up, the habit scorecard.
Okay, what's that about?
Super simple, actually. You just list your daily habits, everything you do routinely. Then you mark each one, plus if it's a good habit, minus if it's bad, equals if it's neutral. Just listing them out.
Just listing them. The act itself raises your awareness dramatically. You suddenly see what you're actually doing all day. That awareness is the first step to change.
Makes sense. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. What's next?
Then you have 2 really effective techniques: implementation intentions and habit stacking.
Okay, tell me about those.
An implementation intention is basically pre-deciding when and where you'll do a new habit. You make a specific plan, not just I'll exercise more, but
I will go for a 20-minute walk around the block at 7:30 a.m. tomorrow morning.
exactly that specific. I will behavior at time and location. Studies show just making this plan makes you 2 to 3 times more likely to actually do it.
Because a cue is specific time and place.
Right. It removes the ambiguity. Then there's habit stacking.
Stacking. Like building blocks.
Kind of. You link a new habit you want to start to a habit you already do automatically. The formula is, after I current habit, I will new habit.
Okay. Give me an example.
After I pour my morning cup of coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. Or, after I take off my work shoes, I will change into my workout clothes.
So you're using the completion of the old habit as the cue for the new one.
Precisely. You leverage the momentum you already have. It makes the cue for the new habit really obvious, almost automatic, because it's tied to something ingrained.
That feels very practical.
Yeah.
It's about designing your routine. What about the physical space around us? Our home, our office?
Oh, environment is huge. Absolutely critical. Clear is very direct about this. Motivation is great, ability matters, but often your environment is even more important in shaping what you actually do.
More important than willpower.
Often, yes. The strategy is simple. Make the cues for your good habits visible, obvious, unavoidable. Make the cues for your bad habits invisible.
Okay, examples.
Want to eat more fruit? Don't hide it in the fridge drawer. Put a fruit bowl right on the counter where you see it constantly. Want to read more? Leave a book on your pillow or on the coffee table, not tucked away on a shelf.
Make the good choice the easy, obvious choice.
Exactly. And conversely, want to watch less TV? Unplug it after use. Put the remote in another room. Hide the cookies on a high shelf, not next to the kettle. Add friction to the bad habits.
Make their cues harder to see or act on.
Right. Increase the effort required.
So it sounds like self-control isn't just about gritting your teeth and resisting temptation.
Much less than we think.
It's more about designing your world so you don't have to resist as often.
That's a huge part of it. Clear tells a story about a sales associate who noticed people bought fewer impulse items near the checkout when those items were simply moved out of the direct line of sight. Out of sight, out of mind. Or at least less likely to trigger the impulse. So fundamentally, good habits thrive when the cues are obvious. Bad habits wither when the cues are invisible. That's the essence of this first law. Make it obvious.
Okay, that brings us toward the end of our deep dive for today. We've really unpacked quite a bit. How tiny changes, like James Clear used himself after that accident, how they compound into these remarkable results. We looked at the logic, that compounding effect, and that plateau of latent potential.
Right, the importance of patience and trusting the process.
Learning to focus on the process, not just waiting for the outcome, and the power of identity-based habits.
And then we really dove into that first law, make it obvious. Understanding our brain's quirks, how it misses subtle cues, how profoundly our environment shapes us, and those practical tools, the habit scorecard for awareness, implementation intentions for planning, and habit stacking for linking behaviors.
It gives you, the listener, a really solid framework. You understand how these everyday behaviors get wired in, and importantly, how you can start to consciously rewire them.
Yeah, it's about working smarter with your own psychology, not just harder against it, understanding those invisible environmental forces.
So for you listening, it means gaining these powerful, actionable insights to build better systems in your own life.
So maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. If your habits really are a reflection of your identity, what's one small, maybe even seemingly insignificant action you could take today, right now, to cast a vote, prove to yourself who you want to become?